Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. 10 years ago in July 2020, after losing both Chelsea Green and Mercedes Martinez to the main roster, well, that went well. The Robert Stone brand seemingly teased a new client to replace them on Twitter. Replying to a fan who suggested Stone manage former Divas champion Melina, the brand man said she would be a perfect fit. Then Melina herself responded, saying she was open to the idea, and if you want to turn ordinary into extraordinary, call me. The plot thickened further when PW Insider reported in September that Melina had come to terms on a deal with WWE and would be returning within a week, which Melina herself quickly disputed. But now it's come out that return was scheduled to happen, but was scrapped entirely. Former wrestling manager and reality star Johnny Fairplay recently appeared on the PW Torch podcast, where he revealed he'd spoken to Robert Stone in the last couple of weeks, who told him his plan was to bring in Melina and manage her in NXT. But she had to have surgery or something. Would you have liked to have seen Melina in NXT? Let me know in the comments, because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere, attempting to do the splits. Former WWE stars returning to boost ratings, but that's AEW's gimmick. Am I right? I'm sorry, I love you, Tony Khan. One of the most shocking wrestling moments of 2020 was former WWE star Sting. Yes, I know he's much better known from another wrestling promotion, TNA, when he debuted for AEW just 2 weeks ago on Dynamite. Sensing something was up when Sting decided not to renew his contract at the end of October, WWE took the Lannisters' approach to legacy and quickly erased any mention of him from their shop and upcoming projects. But that memo hasn't seemed to have reached the WWE video game developer 2K. 2K Battlegrounds recently revealed its third roster update, adding an extra 14 stars. Some are to be expected, like Sami Zayn, Ric Flair and Sheamus, but one feels a little bit dated now, as they also announced current AEW star Sting. AOP were also revealed as part of the update, who were both released from WWE in September. It's odd WWE didn't force 2K to bust out the classic subject to change excuse in order to pull Sting from the game. But it also might reveal just how blindsided WWE and 2K were with Sting's AEW debut. How does it feel, WWE? Because blindsided is exactly what the roster were when WWE decided to clamp down on its independent contractors using third-party platforms such as Twitch and Cameo earlier this year, which Stephanie McMahon has now told Dave Meltzer, but not that Dave Meltzer, on the Playbook podcast, that it's because WWE cares about their wrestlers. For us, we try to amplify the individual stars so we can create the biggest moats around them. Moats there traditionally being a defensive thing to keep people away. They need to have individual voices. They need to be their own personas. Whether it's content creators on the TikTok or Twitch, you see these consumers and people getting behind the content creators and influencers individually because they relate to them. It's different ways for every person. If you can create the opportunities for engagement, then the rising tide will raise all boats. That doesn't work with the moat metaphor. And now it's time for me to review last night's AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. In a completely unrelated topic to begin with, I don't want to see another film in the Magic Mike franchise. Hangman Page reluctantly formed the Sexy Cowboys team with John Silver and Alex Reynolds to take on Matt Hardy and Private Party to open the show. But they worked so well together, Page smiled on the apron.
I wanna get too close, gonna get it right now. I wanna push all the limits with you right now.
And then they lost. Hardy continued his heelish descent, tagging himself in to get the pin on Reynolds after Private Party had done all the work. Like everything else on this filler episode, this was a solid furthering of character arcs and storylines. AEW wrestlers be getting jiggy in lockdown, it seems, as just a few weeks after Jon Moxley revealed Renee Young is pregnant with their debut child, Cody and Brandi Rhodes have just signed a fetus to developmental too. Surely this nightmare family can't get any bigger. Which they announced with a cute video of them unwrapping a Christmas present to reveal the news. I'm going to be an uncle because Cody Rhodes is my brother. I love him like a brother. I don't know what this means for Brandi's feud with Jade Cargill, as that presumably rules her out of taking any bumps for the bulk of next year. But I do know what it means for Cody. He's definitely winning the next match, which he did so against Angelico in a showcase match for the South African submission style. The increasingly larger Team Taz then threatened to put Cody on early paternity leave. Is Team Taz actually a workers' union gimmick? But they were scared off by the mere presence of Sting, who came out to stare at Cody and Darby Allin in the stands. It's been 3 weeks now of Sting in AEW, and let me just check. Yes, it's still really cool. Miro has been fined $75,000 for putting 3 officials in hospital last week, but he said it's not about the money, it's about the likes and subscribers. You heard the man. Subscribe to WrestleTalk. This was amongst the most fun Miro has looked since joining AEW, and he announced we'll finally be getting a wedding update with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford next week, which the best friends later promised they'll be in attendance for. Eddie Kingston ran down the many people who hate him, including a bit where he cut a promo on God himself, which brought down Lance Archer, Pac Phoenix, and a returning from injury Pentagon. So, death quadrilateral. They all brawled with the family. Even with Wardlow pulled due to personal reasons, it's still really cool to see the MJF enhanced Inner Circle all working together, where they cheated to win, with Jericho using the bat, Hager hitting Wardlow's F10 finisher, and then MJF being tagged in purely to get the pin. Aside from a nice opening with Jericho and Brian Pillman Jr., as Chris effectively got Pillman his AEW job, most of the babyface focus was on Top Flight, who looked impressive yet again, and they'll be getting a tag match against Jericho and MJF next week. Thunder Rosa cut a fiery promo on Britt Baker, so Reba and Britt jumped her and scrubbed off her face paint in some nice symbolism. SCU and The Acclaimed had an impromptu rap battle, followed by a wrestling battle, which The Acclaimed won by cheating with the boombox. They then called out the Young Bucks for a tag title shot next week. It's interesting how AEW's tag division has become significantly more sports entertainment since Omega and Page lost the belts in August. The comedy mostly works, and it's good to have variety, but it's not particularly to my tastes. AEW Women's Tag Team Cup winners Ivelisse and Diamante, remember that? Took on Big Swole and Serena Deeb in the usual AEW women's slot. They had a decent bout, which Swole won by making Diamante tap. Like a lot of other stuff on this episode though, this was more preamble to set up stories for future shows, as Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero ran down to beat up the babyfaces afterwards, Vicky with her kicks of fury. It's like watching an Orange Cassidy match, but Red Velvet made the save. At least, it's a story. FTR coolly interrupted the broadcast by shouting about the tag division and Jurassic Express at the commentary table. And then the main event, easily my favourite thing on the show because I'm so goddamn into him right now, was Kenny Omega versus Joey Janela in Omega's first AEW match since becoming champion. And it was perfect for where the character should be right now. What I love is how Kenny seems to be feuding with the concept of wrestling companies themselves. He's above them all, leaning into the Bullet Club Illuminati vibes of the last 5 years. So him versus Janela here, or Tony Schiavone telling Don Callis to kiss his ass on commentary, isn't just personal beef. It's AEW standing up to this guy who disrespected it. Excellently presenting themselves as different to everything else in the AEW world, both Kenny and Don did their own meta commentary on the main event, using the microphone that has become their thematic weapon. And the action itself was really exciting, with them striking the perfect balance of giving Janela enough fire, where he momentarily was on top after reversing a one-winged angel, but ultimately was easily dispatched by Omega. Then, because characters can have multiple feuds at the same time, Death Triangle walked onto the stage for Pac to reveal Kenny would be facing Phoenix, as Ray was never eliminated from the #1 contenders tournament because of injury, which is the exact blend of long-term and reactive booking, combining a legit forced change of plans into a future storyline that makes AEW's creative so organically rewarding. What did you think of Dynamite? Let me know in the comments down below, and follow us on Twitter at WrestleTalk_TV to vote in our poll on a poll match, where 53.1% of you thought it was good. And I agree, this was an average episode. This was the calm in between two storms. The winter is coming epicness of early December and the 3 smash shows to take us into the new year. Stories were advanced, matches were set up, consistently consistent. 3 out of 4. Christmas Eve is next Thursday, and if you have any amount of self-respect, you'll be leaving all of your Christmas shopping until the very last minute. But did you know you can shop on Amazon and support WrestleTalk? Whenever you buy anything from Amazon, please do it using our affiliate link in the video description below, and it'll give WrestleTalk a nice little kickback for the All Authority Christmas party. Yuck, 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 yuck. WWE Raw has hit its worst viewership ever, which has apparently sparked a backstage disaster with Vince McMahon. Click the video on the right to find out what's happening, and find out mine, Luke, and Laurie's TLC predictions by clicking the video below that, where it's me versus El Fakador at TLC this Sunday. Bookmark our Amazon affiliates link to support WrestleTalk. I've been Mr. Davis. Jam match.